This is NTA International, and I am Lami Ali with the news. First, our leading stories. President Buhari lauds efforts of high net worth Nigerians towards containing spread of coronavirus. Correspondence and role of environmental health officers in combating COVID-19. And Supreme Court dismisses Zamfara APC appeal on governorship elections. Thank you for joining us. President Muhammadu Buhari has commended the public spiritedness of Nigerians and other organizations standing up to be counted in the battle against the COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria. Udo India has the details.
President Muhammadu Buhari commended members of the Nigerian private sector coalition against COVID-19. They are Aliko Dangote, Abdulsamad Rabiu of Boad Group, Femi Otedola. Others are Tony Elumelu, Albert Wigwe, Shegun Agbaje, Jim Ovia, UBA Bank, Access Bank, GT and Zenith Banks respectively. The president also thanked every helping hand in the vanguard of encouraging others in the private sector to do same, while extolling individuals, groups and organizations in their efforts at curtailing the spread of the disease. The president expressed optimism that the country will overcome challenges brought by the pandemic and chart new course in nationalism and brotherhood. In Abuja, doing Dia NTA News.
Meanwhile, the federal government says more test laboratories are on the way and has directed that the existing 5 be run round the clock as part of measures to control the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. The Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Hanuri, made the announcement at a press briefing to bring Nigerians up to speed on ongoing response to the COVID-19 outbreak in Nigeria. Oluseyi Adiabo has the details.
With Lagos State the epicenter of the pandemic in Nigeria, the Minister of Health revealed that the federal government has donated 10 billion naira to the state and another 5 billion naira to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC) to improve response.
We are trying to reconfigure certain laboratories we already have to be able to do these tests for coronavirus. We have also ordered yesterday, which the permanent secretary has sent out information that all laboratories now the ones working now, the 5 we have now, should be working around the clock in shift. We are doing that in order to increase the speed, or rather the number of cases that can be tested in a day.
Dr. Ehanure says the federal government is also taking seriously the directive on social distance and intensifying measures on contact tracing to finding cases.
What we are doing here at the federal level is that it's become clear that the coronavirus infection manifests itself in several ways. So therefore, preparing only ICUs is not enough. We must prepare hospital wings for the mild and moderate cases who need to be isolated. Some of them need to be treated, others need only to be observed. So therefore, the advisory to all states is to also prepare isolation centers of different levels.
On if there are palliatives for Nigerians with the stay-at-home order, the minister speaks.
We are working very well with NEMA, National Emergency Management Agency, and they are looking at being able to support communities with the needs, necessary needs, essentials, and to do the needful for which they are trained and equipped.
While commending efforts and contributions of local and foreign donors towards the fight against the deadly disease, Dr. Ehanire assures that the health authorities are working hard to scale up testing capacity and bringing in more people for clinical management. In Abuja, Oluseyi Adiabo, NTA News.
In another development, the Lagos State government has commenced screening and monitoring of all passengers on board a vessel that had 6 people who tested positive for COVID-19. Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, said this during a special press briefing to give an update on the pandemic in Nigeria. Adebola Brooklyn-Sunday reports.
50 passengers were on board the vessels. After the tests, 6 tested positive, while another 6 are being monitored by the officials of the National Center for Disease Control. Professor Akin Abayomi said the importation of the virus is being addressed following the closure of all international borders. However, some people are trying to find their way into the country through the closed land borders. He said Lagos State Ministry of Health is now working with the Nigerian Customs Service, Nigerian Immigration Service, and other security agencies to ensure that nobody sneaks into the nation without screening.
As we speak, we have a situation at the Seme border where we have 16 students who are trying to return back to Nigeria. The details of where they went and what they were doing outside of Nigeria is not clear to us at the moment. But we have sent a dispatch to the Same border to go and retrieve the 16 Nigerians, I believe they're students, and bring them to one of our facilities, probably at Yaba, once I get more information, where they'll be screened and evaluated as to what their risk is, and then we will define whether they need to be tested, and if they're tested, then we will determine based on the test what we're going to do henceforth.
He said patients that are currently undergoing treatment at the mainland infectious disease hospital Yaba are stable and are responding to treatment, and also touched on the accuracy of the test results.
We expect that in the next day or so we are getting ready to discharge those that are becoming not contagious by our molecular testing.
Professor Abayomi said the test on those who are negative is usually done twice before a suspected patient is discharged, especially as it affects the rapid tests.
We do the test from the respiratory secretions, so from the nose or the mouth, or we take a sample of saliva or sputum. We do not do a blood test for COVID-19. The test is specific and is extremely accurate in the right hands.
The commissioner said there are only 3 testing points in Lagos State and that no other testing center has been approved, as they are neither licensed nor endorsed. Adebola Brooklyn-Sunday, NTA News.
Let's now go to other parts of the world. United Kingdom's Prime Minister Boris Johnson tests positive for the coronavirus as United States infection cases surpass China, making it the nation with the most COVID-19 cases in the world. Joyce Ometo reports that over 500,000 people are living with COVID-19 globally.
The pandemic currently spans 199 countries and every inhabited continent. The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases around the world has crossed 550,000. The scourge has claimed the lives of over 25,000 people, while nearly 130,000 is said to have recovered from this disease. In Africa, with 46 countries affected, over 3,000 cases have been recorded, with 83,000 deaths and 254 recoveries confirmed. South Africa still stands as the country with the most cases of coronavirus in the continent. The country has reported its first 2 deaths on the first day of the 3-week lockdown. Its confirmed cases now nears 1,000. Meanwhile, Uganda has confirmed 4 more people tested positive for coronavirus, bringing the total number of cases to 18. Just as Rwanda has announced 9 new cases of coronavirus, bringing the total of 50 cases in less than 2 weeks since the first case was reported. The Democratic Republic of Congo's authorities have announced the shutdown of the capital city, Kinshasa, from Saturday to stop the spread of coronavirus. Let's take a look at some latest updates from other parts of the globe. The United States now leads the world in confirmed coronavirus cases with more than 86,000. Reports say New York is the epicenter of the outbreak, and experts warn the worst is yet to come. The latest figures collated by Johns Hopkins University shows that US has overtaken China and Italy. Italy records the highest death toll globally. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has tested positive for coronavirus, a spokesman says. His symptoms are mild and he will continue to lead the government's response to the virus while he self-isolates. Singapore, which has 683 cases, has begun penalizing people who refused to adhere to social distancing in the latest bid to curb the virus. And to Asia, China's National Health Commission on Friday reported 55 new COVID-19 cases, including 54, it says, are imported infections in recent arrivals from overseas. The country thereby announced a temporary ban on all foreign visitors, even if they have visas or residence permits. In Wuhan, residents who had tested positive earlier and then recovered from this disease are testing positive for the virus a second time. This is based on data from several quarantine facilities in the city. Malaysia reported 130 new coronavirus cases and a total of 2,161 infections, the highest in Southeast Asia. The number of deaths from the virus outbreak rose to 26,000. North Korea says, and in Europe, health officials say the number of deaths in Spain has risen to 4,858, up to 769 in the past 24 hours. The number of people who have recovered is now 9,357. On Thursday evening, officials said France had seen 1,696 deaths, including 365 in the past 24 hours. The coronavirus death toll in Iran has risen to 2,378, and India is planning to release prisoners to prevent the spread of the infection in its overcrowded prisons. And that's today's global update on COVID-19. Stay tuned for more as events unfold. I am Joyce Umetu.
Many thanks, Joyce. And back home, as part of multi-stakeholder collaboration to contain the spread of the coronavirus pandemic, environmental health officers in Nigeria are scaling up on their operations through public education and provision of protective kits in high-risk areas. Onengiye Fineface reports.
Countries in Europe and the United States of America with stronger health institutions are currently among the worst hit with COVID-19. Infection rates globally continues to rise with increasing fatalities, stretching the capacity of healthcare facilities and personnel. While health workers provide frontline care for patients, environmental health practitioners in Nigeria are offering surveillance services to protect first responders from contracting the virus.
But the problem I see is that their numbers are not many. We need them. We need more of them, because this disease, if you are not sick in hospital, the next person who is to take care of what could happen is an environmental health officer. He is there educating people on the street. The waste has to be moved, even the healthcare waste for those who are sick, for them not to get into general population.
They also educate people on environmental hygiene, especially in complying with social distancing protocols to ensure safety at the home front.
I think they're doing their work. They've been doing their work, but this is the time we need them to be more serious and more active. And when they go out for supervision. They should be straightforward and strict about the environment.
As directed by the Minister of Environment, these environmental officers are surveilling high-risk areas, installing automated hand sanitizers, and distributing safety kits to essential service providers, all as part of Nigeria's multi-sectoral strategy to contain the pandemic. In Abuja, Onengiye Fineface, NTA News.
And to enlighten us more on COVID-19 as it concerns environmental health in Nigeria, I have with me Dr. Yakubu Baba. He's a Director, Education and Training, Environmental Health Officers Regulations Council of Nigeria. You're welcome, Dr. Baba.
Thank you for having me.
Now, by your professional assessments, how do you rate compliance to the stay-at-home and other directives by authorities on COVID-19?
Thank you very much, Nigerians. Let me start first and foremost by congratulating and also thanking the stakeholders. This is the first time in the history of Nigeria where all the stakeholders in both ministerial level and also at the government level, at the local government, state and federal government, all hands are on deck to be able to contain this coronavirus. The environmental health officers are part and parcel of the enforcement of not only stay-at-home order, but also this issue of social distancing. You see the environmental officers who are key sectors in the preventive health are playing their major role in addressing these challenges. Like what you know, environmental health services are local services. What I mean is the services are supposed to be constitutionally done by the local government. But because of the number of the EHOs we have in the services of the local government, they are inadequate. That's why the state government and the federal government are complementing each other. What are those services that are more critical during this period? One, we look at the issue of the environmental monitoring and surveillance of high-risk areas. We also look at the issue of decontamination and disinfestation of high-risk areas. We look at the issue of monitoring and surveillance, and also we look at the issue of burial of the dead, safe burial of the dead. We look at the issue of the preparation of the dead body, the transportation, and also the management of the cemeteries, and also safe disposal of the dead.
You've talked about how people are complying to, the directives from authorities. As a follow-up, what are the environmental health officers doing to ensure that we don't have more cases or we don't have more breakouts of the coronavirus anywhere in Nigeria?
Environmental health officers are critical in this time for the purpose of the containment of the coronavirus. The first item that the EHOs, the first services, we are at the front line. And that's why it is important for Nigerians to really understand that we are at very high risk point. What we do as a profession or as a council, we also provide the technical manpower for them and also provide the PPE when they are going on this environmental surveillance and monitoring.
Okay, we want you now to, advise Nigerians generally on how they should maintain personal and environmental hygiene, because basically that's how the virus gets, spread from one person to another.
Yes, the most important thing is the issue of personal hygiene is important when it comes to addressing and containing the COVID-19. What we emphasize at the first instance is people should have the emergency contingency plan at the household level, also at the community level. Then we look at the district level. What am I saying? At the family level, you must provide what we call hand washing station in your house where everybody that comes in and also the members of the public can easily access and wash their hand with soap, and also you provide the hand sanitizer. Equally, we also advise Nigerians, if they are going out, they should wear their masks. The issue of this wearing masks is like what people keep on saying and keep on doing. Is when you are infected that you're supposed to put up the mask. But if you think you are at risk, you can wear the mask. When you come back, people don't know even the period that they're supposed to maintain this mask. You are not expected to put this mask for 24 hours.
Okay, like for how often should one use the mask? Like every day when I use, I dispose of it, or I can continually use it for 2, 3, 4 days?
The mask, you're supposed to use the mask for only 4 hours. After 4 hours, you remove it and dispose it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your comments. I've been speaking with Dr. Yakubu Baba. He's the Director, Education and Training, Environmental Health Officers Regulations Council of Nigeria. We thank you very much for joining us on the news. We're now going to take a short break. More reports after this time out.
Coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person, who affects 2 persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the 2 persons have affected 4, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
Thank you for joining us again. Now, Muslims in Abuja obeyed the stay-at-home to pray Jumat service advice as part of measures to contain COVID-19. Abdullahi Ajia has a situation report from the National Mosque here in Abuja.
It's a Friday, a beautiful and holy day among days in Islamic religion. And Allah in His infinite mercy in Quran 62 verse 9 and 10 enjoins Muslims to heed to the Jumat prayer. But today, Jumat mosques across the world, including the National Mosque here in Abuja, are under lock and key as a safety measure to curb the spread of COVID-19 epidemic.
فَإِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. As far as I know, the life of this mosque, it has never happened this way.
Dr. Muhammad Kabir Adam is one of the imams of this house of Allah. He puts in perspective the situation.
When there is a situation like this, we have to abide by the situation. A sick person was given permission to pray on his bed. During the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to take certain steps as to subgird the life of Muslims. Then he said, Sallu fi rihalikum. Pray inside your houses.
The cleric reminded that while at home, Muslims should seek the mercy and pleasure of Allah through repentance and assisting one another. Ordinarily, this mosque vicinity used to be a beehive of worshippers and business activities every Friday. It's obvious today this place is a shadow of itself as a result of the stay at home to observe the Jumat prayer. Abdullah Shajia, NTA News.
Now to other stories. As the remains of the principal of Bethlehem High School, Abule Ado, Lagos, Reverend Sister Henrietta Aloka, is laid to rest, President Muhammadu Buhari joined staff members and students in mourning the huge loss to the school and the country. In a statement by Femi Adesina, Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, the President believes Sister Aloka's choice to lay down her life for the students she loved deserves commendation, while taking into consideration her contributions to the educational development of the country through piety, diligence and charity. President Buhari salutes her courage and heroism, assuring that posterity will remember her sacrificial spirit in rescuing children kept under her care and putting her own life on the line. The President prays that the Almighty God will accept her soul, comfort her family and all those she lived and died for. President Buhari again condoles with all those who lost their loved ones and property in the pipeline explosion, praying that God will strengthen them in the trying period. Now to the judiciary. The Supreme Court has dismissed an application filed by the All Progressives Congress APC seeking a review of its earlier judgments, which disqualified the Zamfara state governorship and all other candidates of the party in the 2019 general elections. Judiciary correspondent Vera Chumuba reports that Justice Inyango Kuru read the decision of the five-man panel of justices.
In a 1-4 judgment of the Apex Court, Justice Inyang Okoro, who delivered the lead judgment, held that the court, under Order 8 through 16 of the Court Act, lacks jurisdiction to entertain application to review its judgment, as its decision on any matter is final and cannot be reviewed under any guise. He further held that the application is a gross abuse of court process, as it's incompetent, vexatious, and frivolous. The court awarded a 2 million naira cost against APC to be paid to the respondents from 1 to 140. However, in a dissenting judgment of the court, Justice Sentus Nweze upheld the APC application and said the court can review its judgment. He said the judgment of the court favors the PDP, which was not a party to the suit. Justice Nweze further said it is better for the court to admit an error instead of justifying an error which fails to represent justice.
As much as I am bound to accept majority judgment, I prefer the dissenting judgment.
The cost of 2 million naira, I do not know whether it is for each, which will be 280 million naira, or whether it is single, which will only be 2 million naira.
The court had, in an earlier judgment, nullified the victory of APC in Zamfara State governorship, national and state assembly elections for not conducting valid primaries. It also ordered INEC to issue certificate of return to candidates with the highest votes. In Abuja, Viera Chumuba, NTA News.
Sports news now. South Korea Football Association calls IOC to raise age limits for players in Tokyo Games in 2021. Kene Imagbudike is our guide on sports update.
From Asaba, Delta State, Austin Edomodo reports that some stakeholders are counting their losses as the coronavirus pandemic continues to hit global sports.
Formerly, I used to carry 80 copies of sports. Only sports life and sports sun. All would be at about 100 and something. But now, no way. I'm not singing again.
Sports enthusiasts across the country have continued in their quest for relevant authorities to provide adequate medical checks and facilities at the stadia in order to mitigate avoidable tragedies on both athletes and officials.
We athletes, we don't have doctors taking care of us. Even those that can afford it are the most senior athletes that have the funds to seek for a medical doctor that will take care of them or their health.
Some of them might still get advance notice that they're coming for inspection. They go and borrow that ambulance and keep there.
In football, South Korea's Football Association has called on the International Olympic Committee to raise the age limit for Tokyo Games in 2021 to ensure that those players who helped their teams qualify are still eligible to compete. For 2020, players born on or after January 1, 1997 are eligible, while squads can also include 3 players over the age of 23. With sports update, Kenan Ima Abodike, NTA News.
And those are the stories that made the news at this time on NTA International. We thank you for watching. I am Lami Ali.
unique dramas are those of the Kingdom of Oyo, a historic Yoruba kingdom in Oyo State, southwest Nigeria. The kingdom, then an empire, was founded in the 14th century by Oramion, a prince of the Yoruba kingdom of Ife. Oyo Empire grew to become one of the largest empires and kingdoms in West Africa. It rose through the outstanding organizational and administrative skills of the Yoruba people, wealth gained from trade, and its powerful cavalry. The Oyo Empire held sway not only over most kingdoms in Yoruba land, but also over many nearby African states. Notably, the Furi Kingdom of Dahomey in the present-day Republic of Benin to the west.
I went to Dahomey. Now, the head of state there said one time Allah was ruling this place. One time Allah was ruling this place. I thank God. Then he gave me one picture, one symbolic something, which depicts the history of Alaafin as the owner of that particular Dahomey. About the culture, Adibenyo came during the cultural festival of this Oyo, Onaya festival, and the World Sago festival, and you visit Benin Republic, Ghana, and some West African countries, you will see the similar things you saw here and you saw at other places.
The kingdom of Oyo today remains unique in many ways. One aspect of its uniqueness is the level of separation of powers, which has been existing since the inception of the kingdom as an empire till date. No doubt, the separation of powers in the governance of the kingdom predates the introduction of democracy in most continents of the world.
The roles that the people around the Alaafin play in the administration of the Alaafin is unique. You start with the Oloris, who are the immediate queens, or ayabas as we say in Yoruba. They are the people who are the closest to him, to see to his dressing, his makeup, his food, and this aspect. And in the way of speaking to his ear, you know that in diplomacy. Secondly, the uniqueness is that the Kakanfo heads the military section of the Alaafin administration. The Oyomisi heads the civil administration, and the Alaafin is the executive head. That was why Reverend Thomas Bowen in 1854, when he visited the Alaafin at Atiba in Oyo, said, before the barons of England in the 13th century, that is under King John, could rest or accede to the success of Magna Carta under their King John, the Oyo people, that is under Atiba, have been enjoying the separation of powers, like you have in Montagu. That is the Alaafin, who is in the center, and for the military, the Kakanfo will advise him, and for the civil, the Oyomis will advise him, and he is the chief executive. This uniqueness still operates under this our present
From its founding to date, the Kingdom of Oyo has witnessed the reign of many rulers referred to as Alafins and Obas. The first of three to rule the kingdom in chronological order were Alafin Oramion, who founded the kingdom, Alafin Ajaka, who succeeded Oramion, and Alafin Shango, the successor of Alafin Ajaka. The three of them reigned in the 1300s. Between 1956 and 1970, it was Bello Badagbesin Oladigbolu II that was the Alafin of Oyo. He was succeeded by the present Alafin of Oyo, Oba Lamidi Olaiwola Adeyemi III, who ascended the throne in 1970. Alafin Lamidi was born on 15th October 1938 to the family of Oba Adeyemi Adeniran II, who was the Alafin of Oyo from 1945 to 1954. Oba Lamidi Adeyemi III was an insurance clerk and a boxer before he became the Alafin of Oyo, after his candidature passed the necessary endorsement of the Oyo Messi, that is, the kingmakers. Oba Lamidi is an author, a writer, orator, and a master strategist. He is highly revered traditional ruler and a national figure. He holds the national honor of the Commander of the Federal Republic, CFR, which was conferred on him in 1979. The Alafin of Oyo served as the Pro-Chancellor of Othman and Fodio University, Sokoto, from 1980 to 1992. The royal father has also served the nation in various other capacities, one of which was his being the National Amirul Hajj during the 1990 pilgrimage to Mecca. He is the chairman of Oyo State Council of Obas and Chiefs. Occupying the throne as the Alafin of Oyo Kingdom is an enormous task, which calls for a great deal of sacrifice devoid of dwelling.
When you are being inducted into office as the Alafin of Oyo, they take you to several cleansing prophecies. You are trained and you are admonished to see your life, that you will not have a private life of your own anymore. Your entire life must be spent in the service of your people until you breathe your last breath on earth. Every morning, the covenant that you had when you are taken to the holy spot of your ancestors where they are buried, you make a covenant that will defend, uphold, maintain, and enhance the tradition, the custom, the norms of the honorable history of your people. It's a work that you must do. It is not a covenant that you observe, you did when you are appointed, but it is every day you are reminded of this covenant, and you cannot afford to fail or neglect those responsibilities thrust on your shoulders. Now the drummers are placed in a special position in the palace. The note that the drum will sound every morning, they are there day and night, come rain or shine. The first note they will sound that is told you, Adeyemi, get up, gather your leons. The duty entrusted to you cannot be delegated to other person. In other words, you are reminded that you have a date with destiny. You are reminded that you must make a success of your reign. So when you depart, people will judge you of what you have been able to do.
Agbára mú dájú wọn bàbá kálàṣẹ Ìjẹ̀bú-Bìyí bàbá Olúgòkè Àwòyédè Adéyẹrí bàbá Ìkọ̀rọ̀ ìṣẹ̀dálẹ̀ ló lọ́yọ́ bàbá rán mi létí àkọ́túnkọ́sí àjùmọ̀ bàbá Ṣàngó adé tùfẹ́ ọmọ sáde oríṣẹ́mi.
Traditionally, Alaafin Lamidi loves Yoruba arts, and he has been a strong promoter of shekere, which is the calabash drum that is peculiar to the kingdom of Oyo. The construction of an artistic fountain of decorated shekere at the main entrance of the Oyo Palace is therefore not a mistake. The royal father is indeed a unifying figure and father to all. Hence, his palace is open to all at all times. Alaafin Adeyemi III enjoys the prayers and support of followers of all religions practiced in the Oyo Kingdom.
This present Alaafin was very kind, magnanimous, helpful, and even nobody can forget him. For example, this year, or some years past, he has sent not more than 10 or 15 to Haji, that is called Mecca, and not more than 5 or 6 to Jerusalem. Then he has built blocks of classroom in some secondary schools, like Ankara Methodist Secondary School, Alaafin High School. Alaafin High School. Let me tell you once again. Now, he has helped some people to go to overseas for study. I'm one of the witnesses. I went along with them to airport, where they get the cars, the transport papers down to that place. Now, it's not limited. It does not limit his help to himself alone. He helped the Yorubas, the Hausas, the Igbos, the Fulanis, and every other persons. So he is very kind, and let me tell you, Alaafin, why is Alaafin able to control his people? He has the weight, the wish, and wisdom of controlling or satisfying his people.
Oba Lamidi Adeyemi is highly respected by his people. When homages are paid, they are done in a special way, provided one gets to the point where homages are paid, whether the Alaafin is on seat or not.